Alright, hello everyone, and welcome to Session 2 of Rise of the Dark Avatar, a Avatar Legends actual play. My name is ELH, I'm a VTubing Game Master, and as I said in the first session, if the Avatar weirds you out, well, consider it a test to see if you can use Theater of the Mind. There you go, boom, I said it. But for those who are coming to join us for the first or second time, welcome or welcome back. Just wanted to go over a few quick things before we introduce the players and then we jump into play. So again, since this is fairly new in terms of content for the channel, these sessions will be available as both podcast and VODs. The VODs will be chopped and available on YouTube on Wednesdays. The podcast versions, the audio-only versions, will also be available on Wednesdays as well. There will be a break for Twitch about halfway through, which will be cut out of the VOD in the podcast. So if you're listening on YouTube or you're listening on whatever podcast solution you're on, don't worry about needing to pause the recording or skip ahead. I handle that for you. The only other announcement I have to say is that, I guess I have a small announcement. Let's see. It's either P-Liqui or Poliqui. Either way, thank you for the Prime sub. Thank you. The only thing I have to really say on that note, actually, is we are going to enable channel points next week. And for those who don't know what channel points are, they're a thing on Twitch where viewers can basically watch and gather channel points as they watch the channel. And they will be able to add +1 forward and +1 ongoing for certain events. So if you're interested in point redeems, or if you love that sort of randomness or audience engagement, definitely come check us out on Twitch if you're not already. But I think that's all I have to say at the top of the stream before we jump into play. So let's get the players to introduce themselves, and we'll get started. So, Mr. Aaron.
Yeah. Hey guys. I'm Aaron. Kicking around for a while now. I'm playing Lu Songshi, the Earthbender, and the resident stick in the mud.
Accurate.
Hello everyone, my name is Darewolf, Darewolf Gaming 88 on Twitter and Twitch. I am playing Shazo Lee, the resident firebender, and the guy who doesn't know when to stop eating. So we'll see how that works out.
Well, I'm Matthew. I'm playing the female waterbender Amaruk, who hails from Republic City and is part of a crime family.
I like it. All right, well, Benosphere, I think you have opening narration for us, so take it away, big guy.
Water, air, fire, earth. Mastery of all four elements has always been associated with the ability to bring balance to the world. But Avatar Aang has passed away, and the new Avatar has yet to be found. In this transitional era of rapid progress and technological wonder, the world must come to rely on a new force to maintain the balance between humanity and spirits, between light and dark, yin and yang. Rava's followers would tell you that this new dark avatar should be locked away without question. Yet as a certain wise man will tell you, light and dark cannot exist without one another. There is light in the darkness, and darkness in light. Can the Dark Avatar truly keep the balance? Only time will tell.
Alright, welcome back. So, as a recap, the year is 153 AG, or after the genocide of the Airbenders by the Fire Nation. It's the same year that Avatar Aang has passed away and Avatar Korra has been born. We started the game in Tuzin, a formerly abandoned village in the Southern Earth Kingdom that the White Lotus have repurposed and turned into a bustling city/town. Unfortunately, it seemed that not all was well in Tuzin. Apparently, some of the White Lotus Grand Masters were keeping a young woman named Ying and her Shirshu in the city. To what means is something that the players were unaware of, but what they did know is that Pai Mei, one of the Grand Masters, implored the PCs to take Ying to Darika up the coast. Now, in the events that followed, we learned that apparently some of the other Grand Masters were in on a plot or a conspiracy to drug or otherwise manipulate Ying. For what reason is unclear. But ultimately what happened is the players were able to escape from Tuzin, but they had one of the Grandmasters, Yira, on their tail. Now, thanks to some amazing combination bending from Shazou and Lu Songshi, they were able to lock down Grandmaster Yira, and with Amaruk providing some support and some guidance on that front, they were able to escape into the night. And where we begin is about a day and a half later, where all of you have finally come to a stop in the middle of a forest. It's a small clearing that you find yourselves in, maybe no bigger than, I would say, a small office, like maybe not an office, but maybe like two cubicles put next to each other. It's a very, very small clearing. The trees around you are big oaks, with, bristling branches that sort of rustle in the wind, a few pine needles falling, and in general, you hear all around you the sounds of the forest, sounds of creatures, and yeah, well, maybe. Oh, I wasn't aware we had cat bears here. Nice. And owl snakes. What the hell's an owl snake? Well, it's canon now.
Oh.
In any event, you all have finally come to a stop, and you're making camp for the first time since leaving. You guys have literally run through the day and night to put some distance between you guys. So having finally time to come to a stop, it's a welcome reprieve, is what I would say. But as you all settle down and you finally get a fire going, I think Ying looks to Shazou and Lu Songshi first and says, "So, I've been meaning to ask, how do you, well, I guess you also as well, Amaruk, but you two, I guess we'll start, how do you know each other? I mean, you seem like you guys get along."
I just need a moment. I just need one moment. We left behind so many sandwiches. It's really it's hit me hard right now. It's just 2 seconds.
Well, Amaruk helped with researching and planning. My job was to make the tunnel. Your job was the sandwiches.
We didn't have time, and we had to go, and
I know you missed the sandwiches, but look, there'll be more sandwiches at Darika. I mean, who knows the kinds of sandwiches that they might have there. Think about that, right? Sandwiches that you've never even thought of, right? Combinations of different kinds of meats and toppings, right? There's a whole world of sandwiches out there for you to explore.
I feel better. That sounds good. What were you talking about?
Sandwiches, I think.
Oh. Do you have any?
No.
Oh. What was the question?
And Ying chuckles to herself and says, "Oh, I could tell we're going to have fun." No, I was just curious how you and Lu Songshi knew each other.
We don't. I mean, kind of. Do we? We've worked together, haven't we? No.
No.
Are you sure? I mean, the way you two worked in action there when we were facing off with Yera, it felt like you'd seen that maneuver 100 times before.
Spinning to face his earthbending comrade, Shazou will place a hand on his chin, rubbing a non-existent beard. Were you ever in the military?
I was part of the militia in Ba Sing Se. It was mandatory.
Yeah, I have no idea why it went so well. No idea at all.
Well, actually, and Amaruk is actually going to pull out another large tome, different from the first one that you've seen her carting around before, and flip it open. There is something in the Water Tribe myths that speaks of a kind of connection between souls, a brotherhood forged on the battlefield between two like-minded people who, in common cause, find a way to merge, to transcend the limitations of their own identities and become as one in action, like the two flowing streams merging into a mighty river.
Right, but how does that explain what happened to Shazou and me?
It doesn't. I was just making conversation.
I don't understand it. That doesn't make any sense.
No.
We should come up with a name for that move, though. That was pretty cool.
What about?
And Ying thinks for a moment and says, I mean, we could always go for like the classic thing, and we could just make something up that just sounds really, really cool. Like, she snaps her fingers a few times. How about like the punishing Nakapow? Or how about the flying Buddha Bam?
Earth knocking fire blast.
I like it. You know what? Yours is way better than mine. I love
Earth knocking fire blast.
I don't like that.
Yes. You love it, right? You love it. You don't like it. You love it.
No.
So you'll be like, Shazo, earth knocking, and I'll be like, fire blast, and he jumps in the air. I jump in the air and just do like a quick little poof of fire to the side. We're gonna be famous.
I just needed to get some air before I came down.
We should start practicing right now. And he goes to grab Lou and like pull him off to go practice. I'm sure he resists, but that's the intent. Just hear earth knocking. You gotta say the thing. Say it.
I don't. Do I have to?
Yeah.
Earth knocking.
Fire blast. Boof. All the greats like call out their moves as they do them. Come on, you know that.
It seems like a very easy way for your enemy to counter what you're about to do.
Or to instill fear in them because they know what you're going to do. Let's practice again.
Shazo, I really don't think anyone is afraid of us.
They will be.
Ying turns to Amaruk at this point and goes, so, how do you know these? Or are these two just happenstance that you know them? Or do you know them at all?
You know, it was more like we all joined at the same time, and hey, I'm a pretty gregarious person. I wanted to get to know the people I was working with. We just sort of fell in together. That's how these things work. And as she's speaking, she's actually sort of glancing occasionally over at the other two as they're practicing, sketching down various different positions within their movements as if she is creating some kind of new combination waterbend or earth and firebending scroll.
Ooh, I love it. All right, so real quick though, we got to do two things because I forgot one thing that's relevant to Aaron's character. Yes. Aaron, Lu Songshi is a guardian, which means correct. At the beginning of each session, you have to roll to see if you get anything forward, or basically you have special benefits. So Let's go through it real quick. At the beginning of each session, roll and then take +1 for each yes. So for each of these yeses, you're going to add +1 to your roll. First question, do you believe your ward listens to you more often than not? Again, your ward being Ying in this instance.
Yes, I think so.
Okay. Have you recently protected them or helped them with a problem?
Yes.
Okay. Is there an immediate threat to your ward that you are aware of?
Yes.
Okay, so you're rolling with +3 here.
Oh boy. Bonuses 3.
And you just, again, full hit. Apparently you were just dominating the dice rolls. So you get to choose 2 of these. Okay, so the way this works is you hold 2 points, basically.
Yeah.
And you can spend one of the holds, one of your points, to either take a 10 on any move to defend or protect your ward, to track them down even if they are hidden or avoiding you, or to figure out what they're up to without them knowing. So basically the protective guardian. Yep. All right. The second thing we need to do is I want to have Amaruk here. I'm thinking this is going to be almost like an assess the situation here, or at least it's the closest thing I can think of. And instead of asking the questions at the end of it, we're going to sort of push that towards, as you said, a scroll development, as you will. So if you practice and develop this enough, you can potentially make this a mastery if you're following where I'm going with this.
Would that be rolling with creativity?
I believe so, yes. Oh, wow, okay, you guys are coming out of the gate swinging with another full hit. So I'm going to give you the option of 2 things, and you tell me which Amaruk would prefer. Are you leaning more towards the firebending part of the technique, or more towards the earthbending side of the technique?
I think I'd be leaning more towards the firebending, and that has nothing to do with your request, Wolf.
So what I'm going to say then is, and again, we're learning the rules, so we're still trying to figure out, best things here. But I'd like you to write down, I believe it is a basic technique. Let me just quickly verify that real quick. All right. No, I don't want that. Here it is. So basic techniques don't require any special training. Okay, so it's not a basic. All right, so here's the way it's going to work is it's not learned, but moving forward, if either Lu Songshi or Shazo, if you are able to roll a +10 on your next time you apply this technique, you can use it as a learned technique, is what I would say. And if you learn this technique and you move forward and continue to do successful rolls, it becomes practiced and then eventually mastered.
Say the thing.
Earth knocking.
Fire blast.
And I think Ying kind of looks over at Amruk, like almost over the shoulder, and goes, "That's actually really good brushwork you've got there. Do you do this for a living, or did you do it for a living before coming to the White Lotus?"
Oh, no, I never actually had to earn a living on my own. I mean, my mother taught me. Yeah. Look at that move, and she starts pointing out this series of sort of acrobatic maneuvers as Xiaozhou Li is sort of leaping onto Lu's shoulders. See the grace there? I'm not capturing that right.
And then Ying starts to sniff a little bit as if she's trying to, figure out where a scent is, and kind of goes, do any of you smell that?
No, but I'm really hungry.
Well, it smells like burning meat, but we haven't put any on the campfire. And I would say now that you've been alerted to the smell, you do pick up the slight sort of burnt meat smell on the wind.
That smells like slightly overdone barbecue.
Haven't eaten since yesterday.
Barbecue. Like, instinctually starts walking towards the direction of the scent. Like, can't help himself.
And
Amaruk is just going to look over at Hosa, and then at Ying, and then point at Hosa, and then back at Ying, and back at Hosa.
Let's have Hosa hold down the fort here. Let's go investigate this smell.
Okay. Thought it would be easier if Hosa just tracked it down for us, considering what she is. But if you want to do that yourself, that sounds like a great adventure. Let's do it.
Well, Ying actually looks at Hosa at that and says, she's got a point. And then Hosa, either comically or almost like if they could wink, they would wink. They kind of put their paws over their, armadillo or anteater-like nose and just kind of whimper a little bit. See, she doesn't want to go for it. I mean, if we're smelling it like this, imagine what she's smelling it like. It's got to be awful.
When it comes to food, I have the nose of a bloodhound. Shazo is on all fours, like sniffing for the direction of the slightly burnt meat. Yeah.
All right, so don't think I need to have you guys roll because it's very easy to follow the smell once you know it's there. You weave through the forest until your campsite is hidden behind the trees, but eventually you come to the end of the forest and you emerge out onto a rocky outcropping that overlooks a beautiful valley. Now, the full moon is out, so you do have some light, and you see that there are, as far as the eyes can see, cherry blossom trees. So those vibrant pinks, those vibrant whites, slowly sort of rustling in the breeze. But then you see the source of the smell. You see to the right of you, to the east, that there is a great fire that is sweeping towards this valley of cherry blossoms. and you see animals of all kind running through the trees trying to escape this fire, but the fire is getting closer and closer and closer to destroying the picturesque valley before you.
How big is this wall of fire?
I would say this wall of fire is probably about, let's put it 150 meters across, so it's a very sizable wall of fire. Almost if, for those of you that remember the end of Avatar: The Last Airbender, there's a certain scene where they're burning the land. That's kind of the level of spread here. So for those who don't know it... Say again?
No, continue, please.
I was going to say, for those of you that haven't gotten that far in Avatar: The Last Airbender, it's basically, I guess a football field's close, or close enough. It's almost a football field, American football field in width here. Now, one thing I will also tell you is that there is a river that does snake through this valley, so if you wanted to do special water bending or anything with the water, it is available to you.
How much distance is between the wall of fire and the cherry blossoms?
I would say at this point, you know what? Why don't you roll and assess the situation here? Why don't you go ahead and roll with creativity, and we'll see what you can get.
Any bonuses?
I'll give you a +1 because you're a firebender, and you roll a full hit. So I'll answer your question, and then you do have the choice of questions from the list. But I would say you're looking at maybe about 10-15 minutes before you're out of time and those cherry blossoms go up.
Oh, it's far enough away to where I could run up to the edge of the river, create a controlled burn in the opposite direction, and then stop the fire prior to it reaching the river and potentially leaping across. So just a controlled burn that pushes it that way.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah, that's what I would go for.
All right. Now, you do get one more because you did roll another full hit. So as a reminder, you can... Or do you have the questions in front of you? Let me ask that.
I don't have the questions in front of me.
Gotcha. There is a handout in Foundry. It should be under the Journals tab. And it should be under System Handouts. You want to look at Common Moves.
So I can... What, do advance and attack?
No, you're looking at Common Moves, and unless did I put the wrong handout in there? All right, hold on.
Combat. Oh, Common Moves.
Yeah.
Worst player ever.
And you just assess the situation, so you get to ask one of those questions.
Bloody heck. Oh, it's so tiny. My vision sucks.
Oh, it is really small.
Is it small? All right, I'll read it out and I'll go back through and I'll fix it later. So you can either ask, what here can I use
What's
to play?
my best way to approach this thing?
What's the best way in, out, through? I gotcha.
Yeah, that's one.
So what I would say is that your best way to handle this is going to be you 3 or 4 working together to not only do controlled burns, but maybe add a little bit of earth walls, maybe add a little bit of dampening the cherry blossoms nearest the river. You basically are going to have to call on everybody's skills in order to accomplish this in time. Because right now, again, you're up on a cliff. You have to get down into the valley, which is going to eat some time, unless you do something really zany.
Lou, do you think you can create a series of earth steps so that we can get down there quicker?
I think so. But why?
Because it's beautiful. Why would we not protect something beautiful?
Because our mission is to bring Ying to Darika, not divert for natural disasters.
But it's beautiful.
Yes, it is.
Look, we're here. There's no reason not to intervene. Come on. It's an adventure, at least.
All right.
And Ying
I can't believe that.
sighs audibly and goes, okay, good. I was worried I'd have to tie break there. Whew. All right. how are we doing this? Who's taking the lead? I guess Shazo, you look like you know what you're doing. What are we doing?
He's gonna earthbend some stairs down to the area, and the idea is he'll be like giving orders, suggesting. All right, troops, here's the plan. I'm gonna create a controlled burn heading back towards where the main fire is coming from. Lou, I need you to start creating earth walls behind it to help redirect the flow of air coming from my controlled burn back towards the direction of the other flame so that it pushes the flame that way. At the same time, Amruk and what was her name again? I have a mental block. Ying, I need you both. You can waterbend, right? Doesn't let her answer. All right, I need you both to drench the cherry blossoms the other side to keep them from potentially catching on fire. We're going to try to control all of the flames as much as we can. All right, everybody got their missions? Yes, good. Let's go. Earth steps.
As a player, could I interject just for a moment?
Yeah, what you got?
Regarding rules. I know that fatigue decreases if you're out in the wilds at like a level of 3 fatigue per night, right?
That is correct.
Conditions don't reset, correct? They have to be addressed either by mechanical means or by having another player comfort or support you, right?
Yeah, so there's 2 ways to clear conditions. As you just said, one of them is comforting or supporting another PC. However, there are ways you can clear it by basically doing a complication in another system or acting almost like determination in Star Trek Adventures, where you act against a value, and that's how you get rid of the condition. So the way this works is, what is your condition that you're looking to clear here?
Foolish.
All right, so the way you get foolish to go away is you take foolhardy action without talking to your companions.
That's exactly what I was thinking about. So would it be possible for me to deviate from this plan? So as we're getting down to the plane, we're all moving out into our various different positions. Amaruk would actually attempt to press her waterbending abilities to their extreme in order to use the water not to drench the cherry blossoms themselves, but to try to combat the fire itself. So delving into the heart of it, to use that water to combat the fire and try to put it out.
I like it. Let's say, yeah, I think this is probably a rely on your skills and training here, so go ahead and roll. But what I will tell you is if you roll not a full hit, there will be consequences.
Oh, I can only imagine, but that's why it's foolhardy
doesn't
action.
realize she's doing that.
Yeah, that's going to be one of them.
Oops.
Okay. So that's focus?
Yeah, it is indeed focus, yep.
Lou, where's Amaruk going? Why is she running into the fire? No!
Oh, there you go. Full hit. So that's a total success. So what happens, Amaruk? Go ahead and...
I think as she sort of adopts this new air that you haven't quite seen from her, because she is usually rather flighty and emotional, the hint of emotion that you can catch from her face in the flickering firelight and that casts shadow and flame across her features is almost an expression of emotional deadness and detachment as she hyperfixates on this stream of water, and then using this slow rolling motion as inexorable as the tides, brings forth this massive plume of water and then just sends it hurtling across the entire field of flame, drenching it and dousing it.
So Shazo and Lu Songshi and Ying all see that as they finally come down to the level where all this is happening. What I'm going to say is, for the moment, the fire has been stalled. It hasn't been put out completely, but for the moment, it seems that you've saved the cherry blossoms.
How did you do that?
Are you all right?
I'm fine. Go. It's not done. It's not finished. The plan still has to be put in place.
Okay.
Well,
and now that we have more time, Shazo would like to go farther away from the river so he doesn't have to burn as much like grassland, and he'll burn the least amount possible to create a control burn back the other way.
Okay.
And then if Lou is willing to help, then we can likely create like barriers to help pressure it back in the other direction.
Gotcha. So we'll have you two work on that. I'm not going to require a roll there, but it's something that you are doing in the background. Because for a moment, I want to focus on Amaruk there because something big just happened there. So Amaruk, as the two guys, Shazo and Lu Songshi, go off to do their little bit of bending, I think Ying kind of comes up next to you and looks you up and down and goes, so that's what water bending can do, yeah?
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
And she kind of looks at her own hands. Can I do that?
I mean, we all have our own specializations, our own talents, our own abilities. It's as diverse, as unique as each person is. You could do that, maybe something completely different.
Could you show me a very basic form? Maybe something that, you would teach a child?
Yeah, and she grins widely, but it's somewhat quavering and nods. Yeah, and I guess Amaruk will try to guide her through some of the basic waterbending forms. But as she's doing so, she almost gets lost in the motions and in recollection, so that she's stumbling through it on occasion.
Okay. So I think what happens is Ying actually is a little bit frustrated at first. Like, she keeps trying to pull the water, kind of like how we see Katara when she's sort of learning waterbending for the first time. She's trying to get the whole wave motion, the pull and the push and the pull. And, as you're leading her through this and you get lost, you don't know how long you're lost, but after a moment you see that Ying is quite literally making these not large waves, but actual sizable, notable waves in the little river that you've pulled water from. And she looks at you and goes, I don't know how I'm doing it, but I'm doing it.
Incredible. I mean, it took me months to learn how to do something like that. Even with my mother teaching me, she was always so disappointed. Yeah, great job. So it's all about the push and the pull. You might think that water has to be forced into position, that you need to control it, but it's not. It's this reciprocal motion. It's inside you, right? The feeling of being moved by the water as you move it.
I think I get what you mean. Hold on. And she starts to push and pull a little bit harder until eventually she starts to form not as large of the wave or as large of the sploosh that you made before, but she does create a very sizable globe of water in the air. And she's kind of looking up at it, kind of swirling her arms around, and goes, wow, wonder how long I can... And then it breaks. And I'd like to say it's at this point that Shazo and Lu Songshi, you come back, see all of that, and as the water breaks, it gets all over everybody present. And Ying goes, oh, sorry.
Shazo will shake himself out like a wet dog. And then create a small flame and just start drying himself.
I think,
Sorry.
Lou will take one of the tails of his robe and just wring it out and sort of look at Ying and go, from fog to that in one evening.
I mean, I had a good teacher, but I don't know. It was... I don't know. I mean, to be honest, my mind's the clearest it's ever been in a long while. I don't have that constant headache anymore.
And as Amaruk just starts waterbending the liquid out of her own clothing and off onto the ground, no, it's not me. It's all you. I've never seen anyone grow at that pace, ever, or heard about it, or read about it. I mean, except for the stuff about the Avatar. That story about Aang when he was journeying with what was his wife's name?
Katara, I think.
Right. He picked it up immediately, but that's the Avatar. Prodigy.
And I think Ying kind of smiles and laughs to herself. So, yeah, that would be silly. I mean, imagine if I just firebended out of nowhere, and she tries to imitate what Shazo does when he firebends. And to everyone's amazement, including Ying, when she punches, not like a big gout of flame, but just kind of like a little poof. And everybody, I imagine, just looks at that fist, and she looks at you and goes, "Did I imagine? Am I asleep? Am I hallucinating?"
Shazo's gonna slide up next to her, still slightly damp. Can you just try something?
Sure.
Your form was slightly off.
Okay.
And he's gonna like shadow her.
Mm-hmm.
Just do what I do. And he'll go through the motions once, twice, 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, now do it at speed. And then he'll do it with her. He creates a small like burst of flame. And I'm curious if it happens for her as well.
It does indeed, where at first, she tries it once and she gets a little frustrated. She tries it a second time and she goes, maybe we were just mentioning it. And then she goes for like a Hail Mary attempt. And the third one, she releases not a great gout of flame, but it's larger than yours.
Nodding his head, he quickly pulls the other 2 into a team huddle again. And he's like, all right, this is weird. Thoughts?
This is impossible.
I mean, it's possible we're insane. Maybe these are not like cherry blossoms. Maybe there's some kind of like narcotic and we're all hallucinating.
Looks up from the group, looks up at the cherry blossoms. Nah. Other options, other thoughts.
That's the only option. It's just, if you're a waterbender, you can't firebend. If you're a firebend, you can't earthbend. If you're an earthbender, you can't airbend.
But she just did the things.
Only the Avatar can do that.
Looking back over at Ying, looking back to the group, back over at Ying,
But it's
slowly back to the group.
But it's
What
not
if she
possible.
is the Avatar?
She can't be the Avatar.
The Avatar just died a year ago.
The next Avatar is born at the moment of the previous Avatar's death. She's much too old.
Well, I got nothing. Brushes his hands together, walks over. We should practice your form some more. And he's going to continue to try and teach her how to firebend.
And I think she takes those lessons for a moment, giving Lu Songxi and Amarok a chance to discuss that, because I think they want to keep talking about it.
And Amarok is just sort of like massaging her chin, and then her forehead, headache building up.
That scroll, the scroll that you had, the scroll that you found, you gave to Ying.
Yes.
It mentioned something about the drug that she was taking and suppressing.
I didn't
What she
read
could
the
do?
entire thing.
I mean, I saw Ying mouthing the words.
Is it possible that the Avatar spirit, whatever it is, I don't know. You would probably know more about this than I would. I mean, you're a spiritualist of some kind, right? Could it have gotten lost? That happens, right? I get lost all the time.
I mean, a spirit just knows. It doesn't need to find its way. It's already there.
The only thing we can do is research.
Well, we need to get to Darika first.
Exactly. Somebody must have encountered something like this. We can't be the first people to encounter a bender of 2 elements.
Virgins.
Maybe it's a spiritual misalignment of some kind.
Or maybe she's got something flammable in her upper sleeves, and
Oh, it's like some kind of parlor trick or a magician's trick, where they have like a little tube in the sleeve that shoots out some kind of flammable gas, and then we should check her.
So the only way to test that is to try to have her do earthbending. You can't fake that.
Well, I mean, didn't Avatar Aang actually fake that once? Using airbending?
But he's the Avatar. He's an exception.
Your footing,
No,
your footing is too narrow. Broaden your stance.
And I think at that, Amaruf would just see Lou just sort of stamp his foot, and sort of similar to Toph when she first got with everybody, this sort of pillar of earth is just going to shoot out, and Shazo's going to go flying a few feet through the air.
Into the river because I find it funny.
Skaploosh.
And I think at that, Lou's going to head over to Ying, and then when he's there, he goes, "Oh, I didn't say that. Sorry, Earth something."
Can he swim?
I don't think it's deep enough for him to drown.
You can drown in
a
like
puddle.
3
Excuse
inches
me.
of water.
You hear violent and very emotional splashing.
Oh no, this is good. This is good, Ying. You can save him if you can earthbend a column underneath him to lift him out of the water.
How am I supposed to do that? I don't.
Just follow my movements, and you'll see Lou will take that sort of low stance that earthbenders tend to have, and just sort of almost pinwheel kick, but instead the foot comes all the way down to the ground. And it's just gonna show her that a few times and see if she can use it.
Tell you what, I want you to roll a harmony here because I'm thinking this is close to a comfort and support. And the good news is that all of you are going to get a benefit of this because you've each done something with Ying. So you're all going to get the benefits of this. But just so we see how well Ying picks up on this is what this roll is going to be for.
Shazo slowly drowns.
All right.
All right, our first miss. So,
but this is good because this reinforces what's going on in Lou's mind, that she can't earthbend. So
here's actually an option here because we're doing it this way. So they can either admit that they can't do it and they'll give up, or they can mark a condition and you get +1 forward against them if you wanted to.
So Ying would mark a condition?
Yeah, so she's an NPC, so she plays by a little different rules, but as long as I understand the rules, NPCs can still be conditioned. So she'll probably take something like angry or foolish.
Maybe insecure.
Insecure would be another good one,
I was about to say that. What if she goes in?
Like, what's going on? Who am I?
Yeah, you know what? I like insecure. Let me mark that on her sheet. So, what that's going to mean is she's going to stamp the ground a few times as, you try to show her the motions, and she's frantically looking between you and Shazo, who's, drowning, and eventually she gets to the point of, damn it, this isn't going to work, and she kind of takes off her outer coat and dives into the water to save Shazo, once again giving Amaruk and Lu Songshi a moment as she's saving Shazo.
Well,
can we imagine, just real briefly, that she doesn't have to dive in? It's like knee height, and she's just walking over to help him stand up.
Well, she makes for the dive, and she realizes at the last moment before she actually jumps, like, oh, and she just kind of leans down and picks up underneath the shoulders.
Well, she can't earthbend.
That's not exactly the most formal of experiments that you've just conducted here.
The only true test is a field test.
That's a good quotation. I'm going to have to mark that down. Excuse me just for a minute. I'm just going to take out a book and mark down that quotation. That's good. I have to add that in as a line of dialogue in a story somewhere.
There's also I heard a good one. Necessity is the mother of invention.
Now that one's just old. That's a cliche.
Oh.
You have to read more.
I mean, I try to, but Shazo just ends up eating the book.
That
I
was
knew
good
it wasn't
roughage.
that deep. I just wanted to see if you'd save me.
Okay. Do you need help drying yourself? I mean, I can do the flame thing now too, or maybe I could waterbend it out of your clothes.
Yes.
And we see one of those like odd situations where with one hand she's trying using fire, and the other one she's pulling water out of your clothes.
Like it's like half like slightly charred, half dry from the water bending. He's just doing a slow spin while still standing in the water. His pants are still wet.
Nice.
What are we doing? What have we gotten ourselves into?
I have no answer for that question. I'm sorry. But it's fun. I mean, look at what we've already accomplished. We've absconded from a heavily fortified base. We've escaped from pursuers. We've had this marvelous camping trip out in the forest. We've saved this cherry blossom orchard, and we haven't actually found out the source of that massive fire, which we probably should investigate as well. Which is just another adventure on the horizon.
That's it's a remarkably optimistic way to look at it.
Well, we can't control what happens to us in our lives because most of us are just prisoners to the fates that have been forced upon us, but we can control how we view them. In the end, the only thing that you have mastery over is your own mind.
Well, no, I'm a fairly good earthbender, too.
Now, out of curiosity, Lu Songshi, what is your favorite animal here? Now, if you say something like a Komodo dragon, I don't think a Komodo dragon's going to pop up, but you know what sort of small to medium creature would you like to have appear at this moment?
Oh, you know...
And remember, hybrids are the word in the Avatar game, or the Avatar setting.
Right. What about... What's a good... Oh, you know what? It's called an armadillo worm.
An armadillo worm. Okay. So as I'm trying to picture that in my hand, I imagine it's one of those things where it looks more like an armored snake than it does an armadillo.
Yeah, like segmented.
Yeah, where it's got segmented, but it's also got like armor plating around its or on top of its form. And it just kind of slinks up next to you, Lu Songshi, and it kind of looks up at you, and its beady eyes just stare into yours for a moment, and then its like serpentine tongue kind of flits out for a moment, and then it scurries away into the darkness.
Huh. I never thought of it that way.
What? What?
Oh, no, nothing.
After a moment, the
Okay.
armadillo worm comes back, does the exact same thing, scurries back into the darkness. Only this time, as you watch it a little more intently, you see that it is almost sitting there waiting for you to follow it.
I'll be right back. Yeah, I'm gonna walk over to the armadillo worm.
As that's happening, we're going to go to Shazo for a moment. So Shazo, at this point, you're either dry or not. It's your call. But Ying is going to, sort of look to you and go, so, the fire bending thing, is there like rules to it? Because, Amrik was just telling me water is about pushing and pulling. What's fire? What are the lessons there? Are you gonna sneeze? It looks like you're gonna sneeze.
I got it. I'm good. That's a great question that I definitely have an answer for. I just need to... How did you do that?
The water bending or the fire bending?
Yes.
Like I said, I don't know. It just sort of came to me when, back at that prison. Man, it's really weird thinking about Tuzin like a prison. But no, I mean it was something where I was told that I needed this medication to deal with my headaches, but I guess it was causing the headaches, preventing me from focusing.
To answer your question about fire, and Chazot is incredibly pensive for this moment, and the silliness on his face, bottom half his pants just below the knee still wet, standing there in the water next to Yin. Firebending is an equilibrium. You are constantly balancing between order and chaos. And if you let either take full control, you either create no flame or allow it to consume you completely. Fire is balance in its purest form. At least that's what my dad said. I don't know. I'm gonna go pick some flowers. You wanna come? And he's gonna walk over and start picking cherry blossoms.
Yeah, I'll come with. So now returning to Lu Songshi at this moment. So the armadillo worm, which again, just amazing mental image now. The armadillo worm leads you just out of sight of your fellows. I mean, it's quite literally you kind of like step back 5 feet and you can see them again. But it leads you to another sort of small waterfall where there's another incline drop. And as you look down past the waterfall into the valley beyond, what you see is that there's a very small village sort of nestled against the river. It's maybe about 4 to 5 buildings. They seem to be made of some sort of mud and brick, but you can see that there's lights on in the village. You can see that there's a few little columns of smoke coming out of the chimneys. People are living here.
That means they have food. And he's gonna turn to the armadillo worm and like pat it on its head, and will be promptly bitten by the wild animal that he just to touch.
Well, I mean, we can make it a roll if you actually want to animal handle it.
I mean, wait, are you telling me I can keep it?
If you roll well enough, yeah.
Okay, all right. What are we rolling with?
I'm going to say that this is going to be a push your luck here, so you're rolling with passion. I mean, I believe.
All right, let's see. Oh, good. So just so we know, GM and everybody, I have the guilty condition, which is a -2 to push your luck.
Nice.
So here we go. We're gonna with the -2. Now
All
I
right.
get bitten.
So yeah, you definitely get bitten and it scurries off into the wilderness.
Ah. Oh. Yep.
Appearing right next to you
That's the venom.
with a bouquet of beautiful cherry blossoms, taking in a deep breath. Did you say something about food? Ooh, a village. There's probably
Yeah.
food there. Hey guys,
Yeah.
there's probably food over in this village.
I think at that Amaruk comes racing up, and she has in her hand a slip of paper that she sort of crumpled up. She looks down at Lu Shangshi's hand. Hey, you're right there. Need some healing?
Oh, I'm fine.
What happened to your face? Why is it swelling up
Nothing.
like that?
Nothing. No reason.
I mean, it's a good look for you. You could put on a little bit of weight. So I think that's actually, maybe put on 5 pounds. Oh, now it's actually turning a little purple. That's not a good look.
Well,
but I mean, many women find purple to be a color that's quite flattering because it's indicative of royalty, wealth, and prestige. Yeah.
And I think Ying comes over. We should probably get him to that village. Maybe there's a healer there that knows an anti-venom.
Oh, I'm fine.
Yeah, you're turning. How many fingers am I holding up?
You know I don't like that game.
Yep, he's delirious. We have to make. All right, I'm gonna go get Hosa. Why don't you two take him down to the village? I'll be there shortly.
I'll take one arm, you take the other one, Amrook. We'll take him down. Also, TIL, did you know that armadillos sound like That's the sound they make when they're mad. It's like a weird kind of almost a cat sound, because I was going to make an animal sound when you said the thing, and I was like, I don't know what armadillos sound like, so I just looked it up. Yeah.
There you go, everybody. It sounds like an angry cat. Nice. That's why your cat visited you. She's like, what are you doing, human?
You knew what's up.
All right, so
Look at him. He's so
with Shazo and Amaruk carting Lu Songshi down to the village, you arrive on the outskirts, and it's one of those things where as you arrive, stepping out of one of the buildings in which there's light inside is an elderly woman. And when I say elderly woman, I mean stereotypical, kind of bent over with a cane, wrinkles all over her face, kind of lines to not only her eyes but her mouth. She's the stereotypical old woman here, gray hair, everything. But as she steps out with a clunk, 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 and turns to you all and goes, "Oh, well, hello there. We don't usually get visitors. I'm Seth. Did your friend get bitten by an armadillo worm?"
Yes.
Well, we should get him the anti-venom before he becomes paralyzed from the waist down.
Maybe.
And I think at this point, GM, if you'd like, I would like to roll with focus, because I'm going to use my guardian move, Suspicious Mind.
Okay. And for those at home, Suspicious Mind basically means that they get to tell the truth about an NPC, more or less. What do we got here? We have a grand total of a full hit, so I believe you get 2.
Okay. So this is the old woman.
Mm-hmm.
Are you telling the truth?
Mm-hmm. She is.
Okay. What do you really want right now?
She kind of wants get some sleep, but she heard some rustling, so she came to see you. It kind of looks like you almost woke her up when she was on the edge of sleep, and she just came out to investigate.
Ah, okay. All right then.
So the old woman kind of motions back into her little abode, and inside it's stereotypical Earth Kingdom flair, where bricks, mud, some affectations of Ba Sing Se, because everybody in the Earth Kingdom loves Ba Sing Se, apparently. But she has you put Lu Songshi down in a chair. She scurries off into the back and returns with a small vial of yellow liquid, and she says, "All right, well, there's 2 ways you can do this. We can either apply it topically, or you could consume it, but I warn you, if you consume it, it will nullify your bending for about a day. Assuming you're a bender. I don't know if you're a bender, but I thought it was worth mentioning."
Can we please do it topically?
Oh, okay. And she uncorks the bottle, picks up a piece of gauze or a little bit of like a cotton ball and begins like dabbing it over the affected area.
It's a little better.
I think that Amaruk is just sort of observing this very keenly. What about the stuff that's in his bloodstream? Shouldn't he also drink it? Is that going to work?
No, the topical solution will work just fine. He'll get over it fairly quickly, but not as quickly if he'd drink it.
Why would anyone ever drink it? Oh, it's quicker.
It's much quicker, yes.
Can I ask you a personal question?
Okay. If you're wondering if I'm single, yes.
Do you have any food?
Would you like some of my rice pudding that I made earlier today?
Rice pudding. Yes, please.
That was lovely. Yes.
Very good. All right. And she kind of turns around, thunk, thunk, thunk. 3 servings of rice pudding coming up. And it's right about then that you guys hear a thump on the ground outside, and Ying sticks her head and goes, "I heard rice pudding. Are we having rice pudding?" "Okay, make that 4. And that's where we're going to go to our 10-minute break. So for those of you on Twitch, we'll be back in about 10 minutes. But VOD, you're going to come right back in a few moments.
Oh,
but Twitch,
lucky you.
Back in a bit. All right, and welcome back to part 2 of Session 1, Session 2 of Rise of the Dark Avatar. If you're just joining us, the good news is that the players have finally made camp, quote-unquote, after a harrowing journey away from Tuzin, the city in which their charge Ying was ensconced within, kept as sort of a prison-type scenario. But as they made camp for the first time, they noticed that there was a valley of cherry blossoms that was almost going to be burnt by a raging fire. And thinking quick, they all sprang into action, put out the fire, and eventually, after Lu Songshi was bitten by an armadillo worm, they found themselves chancing upon a village and receiving treatment for Lu Songshi, getting a good meal of rice pudding, and actually getting a good night's rest. So we're going to start the following day, but we need to talk about your fatigue and conditions at this point. So, all of you are going to clear 4 fatigue here. And for those of you that still have conditions, let's talk about those conditions. So, who has a condition? All right, we'll start with Lu Songshi. What do you got?
Guilty.
Guilty. The way to get away with guilty is if you make a personal sacrifice to absolve your guilt. Now, do you have anything in mind for that right now? If not, I don't want to say clear it, but I might give you a +1 on push your luck rolls or denying a call-out roll. So you're not quite over it, but you're getting over it.
Maybe we'll see if something interesting comes up in play. But until then, I'd like to
keep it. Okay, always your choice too. And of course, it's something I will reiterate. It is always your guys' choice. If you want to take a condition to actually take the negative effects, you can. But you can also be insecure or angry in the moment. It's your call whether or not it's a condition-worthy thing, is what I would say. And then Shazo, do you have a condition right now? I'm gonna go with no. No, okay. So everybody, it's just Aaron Lu Songshi that has the condition. Okay. All right. So when you wake up in the morning, you step out of the old woman's abode. You learned last night that her name is Seph, S-E-P-H. And as you kind of step out into the little village, she steps out behind you and goes, "Well, it's not much, but this is Muzia. It's a small, quaint little town. It's just me and a few others here."
Well, certainly very peaceful.
Yes, indeed. We don't get many of those city folk like I hear about Republic City. Such a strange way to live.
You're trapped in corridors of concrete and metal.
It's abhorrent, isn't it?
It is.
I find it kind of cozy.
Kind of looks at you. Well, don't take this the wrong way, but you strike me as a very interesting individual.
Thanks.
Well, you of course are welcome to stay here at Muzia as long as you wish, though I will say that we don't really have food for your wolf thing. And Ying kind of looks at Hosa, who's just kind of been sitting outside this entire time. I don't think we need to stay all that long, do we, guys?
Well, we appreciate your hospitality. We must make our way away from here quickly, for reasons that we cannot talk about.
Oh, of course. My son was like that.
We have a delivery to make and we have a deadline.
Oh, I see. Well, let me go into the back and get you some more of that armadillo worm anti-venom, just in case. And she scuttles back into the building, giving you a moment to talk without her being there.
After he's gone, Amaruk is going to grab the two men and bring them into one of those regular huddles, and then pause for a minute. look over at Ying, and like open up a spot.
Oh, I get to be in this one? Cool. And she joins in. So what are we talking about?
So, I mean, these people, they have this weird fire that's inexplicable, massive field of cherry blossoms just randomly out of nowhere, and a drug that can suppress bending. Are we not going to look into any of this?
I mean, I kind of want to look into it, but I think Lu, Songshi, and Shazo want us to go.
Yeah, but that's because they're really boring and old. And they've lost their spirit of adventure.
Lu Songshi's not that old.
He's old in spirit, which you think is a compliment, but not really.
Okay. I mean, but Shazo definitely, I mean, if you just tell him there's food involved, he'll do it. I mean, I only know Shazo a little bit, but I think if you reward him with food, he'll do it.
We probably should have had this
Aggressive
huddle
head
you and me
nods
just
from
together.
Shazo. Yes, very aggressive head nods.
Well, if we want to take a look around, I suppose there's no harm. Although there could be.
Well, yeah, I mean, there could be more of those armadillo worms about.
They're mostly harmless.
And the scorpion frogs. You know, they come out at night.
Mostly.
Mostly. Well, where do we start?
Well, I don't know. I just know what I've read in books. I've not really experienced out in the natural world here. I'm not an investigator.
Well, little did you know, Shazo is actually very good at talking about himself in the third person and sleuthing.
You think his name is Shazo Lee, but it's I had something. It's just gone. Let's move on.
Are you sure you're not feeling the effects of that antivenom? You need to take a lie down?
Oh, no. If I lie down, I don't know when or even if I'll be able to get up under my own power again.
That is a question we all ask ourselves. Am I going to wake up in the morning?
Man, this got really dark. Let's do the whole sluicing thing before we have existential crises.
That sounds like a great idea.
Sleuth Lee.
No. Yeah, that's okay.
Do the thing.
All right. Well,
Say the thing.
If you were a waterbender, you could be Jacques Slousseau.
I don't get it.
Neither do I, and I'm from a water tribe.
I don't get it either.
Well, let's go take a look around, shall we?
All right. So what I'm going to say here is that this is basically going to be the group equivalent of assessing a situation. The one thing I will tell you, though, is that we'll just assume that everybody's assisting, but I won't make you mark fatigue for this because you've got ample time. I don't see a reason to punish you with fatigue. So who would like to take charge here? I'm guessing Shazo, but did want to open it up to the players.
Would love to take the lead on this.
Okay. All right. Well, in that case, you're going to be assessing a situation, which is rolling with creativity, and you are already at a +2 from your assistance.
So,
Nice.
to describe this, imagine someone who thinks they're a ninja, but is not a ninja. So Shazo is diving from barrels, doing forward rolls. There's some skill to it, but everyone can see what he's doing, and they'll pop up and be like, oh. And then he starts singing to himself, thing around, can't see me.
Ying.
He's not very good at it, but maybe he'll bumble into something.
Yeah.
Creativity, you said?
Creativity with a +2. And
All
as
right,
you're
cool.
rolling, I think Ying kind of looks at the others and go, does he do this often?
All the time.
All the time?
Yeah.
Well, with 15, you can definitely ask me 2 questions as you wish. Again, the questions are, what can I use here to blank? Or what is the biggest threat? What should you be on the lookout for? What's your best way out in through? Who or what is in the greatest danger?
What should I be on the lookout for?
All right, so what you should be on the lookout for is actually where the armadillo anti-venom came from. Because it occurs to you that someone very close to you just had her bending suppressed, and apparently if you ingest this liquid, it stops your bending for a while. So that's one question.
So before I ask the second question, can I say something to the group?
Sure.
Okay. Hey Lou, do you have any of that venom? Did she give it to you? Or wait, let me smell your arm. And he's gonna grab his arm where he was bit and like, can I smell the anti-venom still? Because you're lingering?
It's like a light hazelnut.
Hey, can you I keep forgetting. Not Lee. There's so many Lees. I'm Lee. What's our ally's name again? Ying. I'm having a moment. I can't look at Aaron's face without laughing. It's just so funny.
Nice.
Thank you. Wow, that is. I mean,
All right,
it's
back
true.
in character.
It's true.
So no, it's also just the image of me sniffing your arm is really funny to me. But he's going to take a deep whip of it, and then he's going, Ying, come over here, smell this.
She comes over, gives it a tentative sniff. It goes,
Does that smell like the stuff you were drinking?
yeah,
Back
it kind of
in the
does.
city?
Yeah. You
Okay,
don't
I
think
think
the
I'm
old
onto
lady's
something.
in on this, do you?
everyone's in on it. And he's going to get real low, and then he's going to go to a huddle, be like, maybe you're in on it. And then he's going to pivot back, and he's going to ask his next question.
All
What is the best way through this situation? And I asked that question to be like, what's the best way to go to where we saw this lady go get the antivenom from? Like, what's the best way inside?
Well, what I would say is that whenever she's trying to figure a way to say this properly, when she's outside, there's 2 ways in and out of her domicile. But it occurs to you that you kind of have the option of just asking her what she's all about. But there is a way that if you were to just talk to the other villagers, they might know where it comes from as well. But what I would tell you is that the best way through, probably talking to people. The second best way is sneaking in and grabbing something from her back stores, but probably talking to people is your best bet here.
So I'm sneaking into her back room, right? And like he gets halfway up the ledge, stops himself, looks back and sees like 2 other villagers staring at him, then pretends to do a stretch like he's doing some calisthenics. Like, yeah, oh man, that's the burn right there. Always got to stretch in the morning. Always twice in the morning too, and he'll do the other leg. And then he's going to walk over to one of them and be like, so, Mr. And then he's got a notepad, a little quill. Mr. Your name, sir?
The 2 look at each other and go, the first one goes, my name is Matan, M-I-T-A-N.
Mr. Matan. Can you spell that for me?
M-I-T-A-N.
T-A-N, Mr. Matan.
And Matan will say, Matan has kind of a Fu Manchu going on, but not as glorious as your Grand Masters. It's getting there though. It's
impossible. Wannabe.
Then the second villager is a woman actually, and says, my name is Hilla, H-I-L-A, and Hilla is a little bit on the shorter side, maybe kind of very svet or very lithe is a good word to use here.
I'm working on a paper for the local newspaper, and I was curious as to where this lovely village procures its antivenom from.
Right. I think that's definitely going to be a trick here. So that's going to be a creativity roll here.
I would like to argue I could roll with passion, because I'm very passionate about everything I do.
Unfortunately, the only thing that
I'll
passion
roll
would get you in this
creativity. I'm
instance
just-
would be an
it's fine.
intimidate, unfortunately.
Oh, absolutely not. He's gonna do his thing.
All right, you get a hit. So you get to pick one of these. They can either stumble, which means you take +1 to rolls continuing over. They act foolishly, which means they're going to give you an opportunity. Or they overcommit, and they are deceived for some time.
Overcommit.
Overcommit. All right. So Matan and the other ones whose name I've already forgotten, please keep
Hilla.
notes on this, people, because I will miss them sometimes. No, I just had it. It was on the tip of my tongue. All right, she's Hilla and Matan. All right, I'm making my own notes. There we go. All right, so Hilla kind of looks at Matan and goes, "Oh, if they're here about the news, maybe they're going to finally feature our little village here." Matan kind of looks back and goes, "But there's nothing here at Muzia. We just make the anti-venom." And his eyes wide and goes, "That's why you're here. You're doing an expose on the cherry blossoms." Yeah, that's why you're here. Okay. All right, so the cherry blossoms that are up in the valley, basically they, if you kind of work them the right way and you add the right chemicals to them, they make the anti-venom.
And looking down to his little pouch that he has on his side, where he plucked a bunch of those cherry blossoms earlier, he looks down at the pouch, then looks back to them. And how is it made?
Well, and at this, Matan kind of stumbles, but Hilla kind of picks up and goes, "Well, first you need to crush the petals down to a very fine powder. Then you need to add in water at almost boiling temperature, and then you add in a pinch of spice, preferably a jasmine of sorts, and then a little bit of lavender."
Who would you say your main exporter or importer is of the venom?
Well, I know the White Lotus buys a lot of it.
White Lotus, a lot of it. And
Actually, I mean, now that I think about it, 2 Zin's kind of right up the road, and they take maybe about 20% of our supply.
where's the rest go?
Earth Nation in general, really.
And with a look of, I don't want to press my luck, he is going to flip it closed. All right, I'll be sending you a waiver you'll have to sign. You're allowed to talk about the article prior to it actually going into publication. But with that being said, I just want to really thank you for your contribution to the local Rocky Road Bugle.
I thought it was the Rocky Road Gazette, but yeah, we'll be happy to sign your form thing.
Yeah, we're a lesser known offshoot of the Gazette. But yeah, I'll be back a little bit later with that form. And thank you for your contribution. Zoom! And he runs off back to his friends.
All right. So yeah, you can divulge that information to your fellows now.
Word from it. So I found out some interesting stuff, and he's flipping through his notes, which is all just doodles of him firebending, like stick figures of firebending. It's all doodles. He's like, yeah, I talked to a couple people in town. I can't really remember their names. It was like Nikta and like Bobo. I don't know. But they make it from the blossoms, and then he like opens his bag. He's got a bunch of blossoms in there. They crush them down. There's like some powder, water, things like that. And the White Lotus buys a bunch of them. The antivenom, that is. Ties his pouch shut.
Would make sense if they want to suppress Ying's ability. They just give her, I suppose, 1 serving a day. And he'll just sort of look at Ying and, was that right? You took the medicine once a day?
Twice a day, one when I woke up and one before I went to bed. Sometimes 3 around lunchtime, but that was a while ago when I was on 3.
I didn't get an impression from the citizens here that they were malicious in any way. The venom seems to be something that is transported all over the Earth Nation. I may be reading into it a bit more than I should, but I think they're just doing their jobs.
Then the fire that was going to destroy the cherry blossoms, do you think it was set by someone?
We would have to try to attempt to locate its origin, but if we did, I might be able to look for signs of bending.
I wonder if we're actually missing something here. And she's going to turn over to Ying. You said you had symptoms in addition to the suppression of your bendings. You were fogged up. You had headaches.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
And turning back to Xiaozhou, did you have any of those symptoms? Not Xiaozhou, sorry, Lu Shangxi. How did you feel when you woke up?
A little groggy, to be honest. My head was throbbing a little.
Could it be that the White Lotus were modifying the drug, enhancing its bending, suppressing properties, making that the focus as opposed to a side effect?
Could be, or maybe the other side effects were simply a result of how much she was taking.
I think Ying, her face has been slowly falling and almost becoming like not like a dark sort of thing, but if this was a cartoon, the lines of her face would be more pronounced, there'd be a little bit more shadowing, and she eventually just kind of says very plainly, maybe we should have let it burn then. I mean, yeah, I get that it's an anti-venom, but this is wrong. No one should have to take this.
Not unless they get bit by an armadillo worm. Then it is actually pretty handy.
Still, I just feel weird that, I mean, as Xiaozhou said, these people are just living their life. They're not doing anything wrong, but they're enabling the White Lotus, which I think you know how I feel about them at this point.
As we all do, they came after all of us just for daring to leave with you.
We can't punish someone else for the misdeeds of another.
And
It's not their fault that their antivenom is being used in such a malicious way.
and to take it out on those trees would be akin to cutting down a forest so that no spear shafts can be made.
Weren't you the one who wanted to just let it burn?
I felt it was our duty to simply proceed with the mission. But no, I wanted to save the forest. It's lovely. But sometimes what we want and what we have to do are two different things.
Then maybe that's what we're faced with here. I don't want to destroy that forest. I was the one who wanted to save it in the first place. But think about what the White Lotus must be doing with that amount of this material. It can't just be for Ying. If they were willing to use it on her, to keep her under control, mustn't they be doing it with other people as well?
You can't be suggesting that they would use that on other benders as a means of control.
And Ying kind of puts a hand to her chin. I mean, think about it though. If, it wasn't a traditional prison, but like a bender prison. I mean, usually they, at least in Avatar Aang's days, I recall reading stories about how they just like would throw firebenders into like a refrigerator unit type thing to teach them not to bend. But maybe prisons are using this to, maybe the more I say, the more I'm thinking about burning that forest. But I can't, because it would put these people out of a livelihood.
We don't have enough information yet. We need to figure out if that fire was actually set deliberately by someone else. They might have more information. We're acting on speculation at this point. If what we believe about the White Lotus is true, that they are employing it for some clandestine control of benders across vast swaths of the Earth Kingdom, and perhaps beyond, then I think we do have to destroy it. But if it's contained just to to Zin, then we can't destroy these people's lives for nothing.
And I think Ying turns to Hoza and says, "All right, girl, do you think you can take 4 of us?" And Hoza thinks for a moment and then kind of gives a small little yip. And Ying says, "All right, everybody on to Hoza."
Yeah, I'm done.
All right. Well, what I'm going to say is, again, I'm going to let you guys decide who's going to take the main role here. But what I will tell you is that your assist, if you want to provide it, will take fatigue this time. So who would like to take another assess the situation attempt? Would it like to be Shazo again, or would somebody else like to have an opportunity here?
Let somebody else roll.
Lou is not a terribly creative person.
Take it.
All right. So let's see what you get.
And bonus of +2.
If you have a natural +2, yes. Otherwise, you're just rolling it flat.
Okay.
Which, there you go. You get an 11, which means you get 2 questions. I'll tell you one of the questions. I will tell you what or where the fire started. The other question, let me just tell you that up front for the one question, and then you can decide your second question. So as you 4 are riding on the back of Hoza through the charred remains of the forest that bordered up to the cherry blossom orchid, you realize you come to the epicenter, and it looks like a great tree, almost like a redwood that you would find in California. So a very, very large redwood was struck by lightning and subsequently caught fire, and it spread very easily. But as you're investigating, even Shazo, even as you're looking at this, it doesn't look like it was a bender's lightning. It just looks like it was a natural lightning strike of some sort. But what I would tell you is that you didn't hear lightning or thunder or even rain in the area when you were running this way.
Down on all 4s again, scurrying around like some sort of creature.
Mm-hmm.
He is like analyzing the area.
Mm-hmm.
Taste dirt, sniff the air, try to like gauge where the fire spread. This seems too natural. And remind me, there were no storms or rain or thunder?
Oh, the timeline doesn't fit.
I think Ying...
Oh,
go ahead.
No, I think we should move on.
And I think Ying kind of nods that and says, this is going to sound really weird, but if it was lightning that did it, and I don't know, Shazo, you're more knowledgeable about this firebending thing. You can shoot lightning if you try really hard, right?
Like that darkness that falls over a character's face in a show. For a moment, that falls over his face. And he says, No, I don't want to talk about that.
Oh, my apologies. I didn't mean to touch on a nerve. I would agree that it's too natural, which, Mamruk, you might know this saying, if the possible isn't possible, then you must look at the impossible, or something like that. I don't remember where I read it.
Yeah, something like that. I don't remember it either. If the possible has been eliminated, then you're only left with the impossible. So you should strive to achieve it. Yeah,
I believe it's after you've eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth.
Yeah, you know what? I think that's it.
Yeah, but that's vastly less uplifting. You have to strive for the future and realize the impossible dream.
but I think his is more pertinent to what we're talking about here, unfortunately.
I'll grant you that.
But I mean, let's parse it out. I mean, we got a lightning strike that came out of nowhere, which means it's either. She kind of looks at Shazo for a moment. Either it's someone, or I don't know. This is gonna sound crazy. Spirits.
I mean, possible.
I hope not.
But if it was a spirit, it would be because there's some form of fundamental imbalance. Something has been thrown off. The people here have enraged them. If that's the case, then this won't be the end of it. They'll come back until whatever is plaguing them has been addressed, or whatever grievance redressed.
You know, I'm eager to get on to our destination, but maybe we should spend an extra day here and just see if it happens again at night.
It's like a stakeout.
Yeah, that's the word. Oh,
Well,
Shazo, what do you think?
Zoe is looking off in the distance and not paying attention anymore.
So I think Ying tries just once or twice to get your attention, but when she sees you're having a moment, she lets you be. All right, stakeout then?
We should go back to the village and grab a little food.
I agree.
Maybe
yeah.
a tent? Be nice.
Some blankets, maybe.
So we do a little montage there where you return to the city, or not to the city, to the little village of Muzia, and you acquire some... Oh, what you got?
I'm AGM. Right before we leave, as everyone else leaves, I'd like Shazo to be like a little bit of fire in his hand, and he's concentrating really hard, and there's just a little crackle of electricity. Not enough to really control, but just a little crackle, and then he closes his fist, shakes his head, looks very uncomfortable, and then we'll turn and follow everybody else.
Very important detail. Thank you for adding. My train of thought just died. Right. Okay. So after that moment, you go back to the village. You get some supplies. You've got food now. You've got some blankets. You're not just roughing it out in the elements now. But ultimately, this leads you all probably up to the same cliff face where you started the day before or the night before. And you just sort of sit there and wait and just sort of observe the area. And sure enough, what happens is about 9 or 10 o'clock, when the moon hasn't quite reached its zenith, you hear and see a flash of light similar to actual lightning. And it comes out of a clear, starry sky, and it strikes a new tree in the forest on the opposite side of the river from the cherry blossoms. And the fire is small at the moment, it's just one tree that is caught, but you have seen it happen with your own eyes.
Okay. So before we do anything, I'd like to use Lou's earthbending to put that fire out by maybe spraying up some dirt, or whatever, over just to smother the flame.
All right, very easy for you to do. But what I'm going to say is, as you're smothering the flame, emerging from the tree itself is, I'm going to date myself here, but those of you that remember Howl's Moving Castle, you remember the animated like flame that powers everything, kind of that little creature, that little spirit, that's basically a living fireball. You see one of those, about the size of a man, kind of waft out of the tree itself, and it kind of looks at each of you and then bellows with a great roar and begins blasting fire at each of you. So we're going to go into an encounter here, unless... What do you got, Shazo?
Oh, Shazo would throw himself in the way and just, like, without even thinking, just right in the way of that. With no care for himself. Yeah, not letting his friends get burned.
Okay. Tell you what, maybe
willing
we
to
won't
take
do an encounter here. Now that I think about it.
damage, whatever I need to do to just like, as soon as he sees that thing pop up, springing forward as though he sees the flame coming, he is going to throw himself in the way and just like, if he can, direct that straight up. And then like, you know, even if, and like maybe he doesn't get to it in time, I can burn myself, whatever I need to do. Just he wants to take the full brunt of that.
No, I tell you what then, we won't do an encounter then. We'll just have a quick little spar here. So why don't you mark either a condition or 2 fatigue here?
I would like to take guilty as a condition.
Okay. Very solid condition. All right, so again, as you said, you're able to jump in front of the fire blasts and direct them skyward. But at this moment, Amaruk and Lu Songshi, what are you guys doing?
Matthew?
Question for you, Mike.
Yes.
Would it be possible for Amaruk to know anything about spirit bending, considering that one of her background elements is that her family has hoarded a treasure trove of antediluvian tomes and artifacts?
I think it's
So
a safe bet that you definitely know about it. Now, whether or not you've practiced it yourself, I'm going to leave your call.
Yeah, probably not. So using only theoretical knowledge and book smarts, she's actually going to try to uncork a gourd at her hip and summon forth the water therein and attempt to encircle the spirit in that water, changing it into this viscous form of illumination in that form of spirit bending that we've seen, in order to try to pacify it.
Okay. I'm going to say that's definitely a rely on your skills and training here. The question is, do I apply any modifiers to it? Let's say that I'd like you to take a -1 modifier because you're using theoretical knowledge. You've never practiced this.
Am I able to assist?
Remember the assist happens after if they need it. But yes, you could potentially assist.
Do I have to roll with focus?
I believe so, yes.
And -1 modifier.
All right, well, there you go. Assist's not even needed. So tell us what happens in the spirit bending here. Because again, you got a full hit.
I think as the creature is raging, its flames intensifying, it's sort of reaching that white-hot level at its core. Suddenly, this almost like soothing, cooling radiance, almost like a rainfall of light, falls upon its body, and the fire begins to dwindle and grow into this sort of calm, warming orange color throughout its entire body as it settles and ceases its aggressive action through that sort of winding, circuitous motion of the water bending. And Amaruk is then going to pull back the water, return it into the gourd, cork it, and then just sort of like sigh and collapse harshly onto like a nearby tree, panting a little bit.
And what I would say is that as you all look to Amaruk, and Ying kind of rushes over to see if you're all right, the fire spirit just kind of looks at all of you and then starts to walk back into the tree that it, hit with the lightning. And when it enters the tree, it just dissipates into energy and has left the vicinity. And I think Ying, again, coming and rushing over to Amaruk, goes, "Are you all right? What was that? I've never seen such bending before."
I can't believe that worked. That was absolutely amazing. That was spirit bending. My mother's only told me about that. I can't. Wow, that was a rush. Okay.
Not to bring you down, but you do the healing thing, right?
Yes.
It looks like Shazo might need a...
Currently wrapping his hand in a bandage.
And Amaruk then is just going to approach him in a rush, grab the arm as he is attempting to bandage it, and wrench it forward to try to uncork the gourd and remove that water to just begin healing him without saying anything or asking anything.
An instinctual and perhaps unexpectedly aggressive shove like a flat palm as you grab the hand, a flat palm to your solar plexus, just shove away as quickly as possible. It's fine. I don't need you to heal it. And he's just going to continue to wrap his hand.
What are you talking about? I mean, you don't need me to heal it. Of course you don't need me to heal it, but I can. Why won't just let me help you?
Leave me alone. That noise was my cat rubbing against the microphone. That was amazing. You're such a kitty, Tesla. I was trying to be emotional. You just made the most adorable noise. All right. Serious face. I don't want your help. Just leave me alone. Finish wrapping, stands up, kind of cradles his arm, and then we'll just, move back towards the core of the group, but not say anything to anyone.
Lou, are you just going to let him do that? I mean, what's going on?
That's a good question.
We've taken care of the situation here. We should move on. There's no reason to linger. The longer we linger, the more chance it is that they'll find us. We have to think of our charge.
But what do the rest of you think?
There's clearly so much going on here that we don't understand. Isn't this actually a threat to us, to Ying, to benders everywhere? And the spirits, they've been unsettled. This is only going to happen again.
Well, didn't you just purify it? Isn't that what you just did?
I don't really know what I did, and we don't know what caused the spirit to become enraged in the first place.
Let's, this is gonna sound weird, but I think we need to find a library or something we can look up information in, because right now we're just going on supposition.
That is an amazing idea. We should follow that plan immediately. I don't think this village has a library, so where were you thinking of going?
Our original destination?
Darika?
Yeah.
Works for me. All right, gentlemen, let's go.
Alright,
Right.
I guess everybody back on Hosa and we'll ride through the night again. Unless, I don't know, does anybody want to take the night?
Let's go.
So our final scene then is everybody climbing onto the back of Hosa, and Hosa the Shirshu kind of giving a howl to the moon above and trancing off into the darkness of the forest. And that is where we will end today's session. So yeah, what'd you guys think?
Great.
Jeff's kiss.
Yeah. Says just a few things before I, sign off for the VOD and all that. So as you can tell, we are going to be presenting those morally ambiguous choices. We are exploring sort of the darker side of balance. The one thing I would say is that hopefully we'll show that you don't have to be a cartoonishly dark person. You can be dark and not be a bad person is what I'm getting at. So hopefully you'll start to see that more as situations like this develop.
My name is Eric the Edgelord. Wait, what? No, I'm kidding. That's terrible.
Oh, Lord. Well, that's why I wanted to have you three in particular, because I knew you would do the source right, and you wouldn't devolve it into giant kaiju battles over Republic City. So, which if you've not seen Korra, yeah, that was how the original Dark Avatar thing ends up. It's literally just a kaiju battle. Like, it is the most stupid thing. All right, I'm going to get on a rant here. I'm just going to stop there before I go on a rant. Yeah. Thank you all so much for listening in. I'm going to end the recording here for the VOD and for podcast, but Twitch stick around because we're going to rate somebody, but VOD and podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you later.